Hard to get it, it's so hard to get it. It's so hard to get it. Ba-da-bum-ba-da-ba-ba-ba, 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 ba-da-bum-ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I used to be the lost boy running insane. I used to be the ghost boy looking for fame. I used to work so hard to get it, so hard to get it. I used to be the one living in the fast lane. I used to be the one to only cry in the rain. I used to work so hard to get it, so hard to get it. Boy running insane. Used to be the ghost boy looking for fame. I used to work so hard to get it. drop the mic, I'll kill your dreams and I know that you try so hard to tell me I'm not a part of life that you had. A psycho. Cause when I drop the mic, I'll kill your dreams and I know that you try so hard to tell me I'm not a part of life that you had. A psycho.
on the whole, do you feel happy or do you feel...
I feel so happy.
What happened to this feeling, messianic feeling that you described before?
I feel that it's, if that's what I described, I feel that it's very valid.
chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
I used to be the ghost boy looking for fame. I used to work so hard to get it, so hard to get it. I used to be the one living in the fast lane. I used to be the one who only cried in the rain. I used to work so hard to get it, and so hard to get it. And so hard to get it. I used to be the lost boy running insane. I used to be the ghost boy looking for fame. I used to work so hard to get it, so hard to get it. I used to be the one living in the fast lane. I used to be the one who only cried in the rain. I used to work so hard to get it, and so hard to get it. I used to be the lost boy running insane. Used to be the ghost boy looking for fame. I used to work so hard to get it. I used to be the one living in the fast lane. Used to be the one who only cried in the rain. I used to work so hard to get it. It's so hard to get it. So hard to get it. I used to be the lost boy running insane. I used to be the ghost boy looking for fame. I used to work so hard to get it, so hard to get it. I used to be the one living in the fast lane. I used to be the one who only cried in the rain. I used to work so hard to get it, so hard to get it. Used to be the ghost boy looking for fame. I used to work so hard to get it.
Cause when I grab the mic, I kill your dreams and I know that you try so hard
hard to tell me I'm not a part of life that you had. A psycho. Cause when I drop the mic, I'll kill your dreams and I know that you try so hard to tell me I'm not a part of life that you had. A psycho.
On the whole, do you feel happy or do you feel...
I feel so happy.
What happened to this feeling, messianic feeling that you described before?
I feel that it's, if that's what I described, I feel that it's very valid.
Comisionada Ciudadana del Instituto de Transparencia, Acceso a la Información Pública, protección de datos personales y rendición de cuentas de la Ciudad de México, así como
Lothar
coordinadora de la
Rast,
Comisión de Gobierno Abierto
Director
y
of
Transparencia
Deutsche
Operativa
Gesellschaft für
de
Internationale
Reserva Nacional de Transparencia
Zusammenarbeit,
y Equidad
GIS, Mexico.
También con nosotros
Coordinator,
se encuentra Enrique Guevara Ortiz, director general
Blanca
de
Lilia
Información
Ibarra
de
Cadena,
Prevención a Desastres.
Commissioner President
También
of
con
INAI.
nosotros se encuentra Miriam Ursúa Venegas, secretaria de Gestión Integral de Riesgos y Protección Civil de la Ciudad de México.
Julio César Bonilla Gutiérrez, Commissioner President of the Info Mexico City.
Asimismo, con nosotros se encuentra Blanca Lilia Ibarra Cadena,
Inaugural Act, Openness and Transparency upon Risk, Prevention, Reaction, and Recuperation.
Por último, con nosotros también se encuentra en este acto de inauguración Julio César Bonilla Gutiérrez, comisionado presidente del Instituto de Transparencia, Acceso a la Información Pública, Protección de Datos Personales y Rendición de Cuentas de la Ciudad de México. Asimismo, cedo el uso de la voz a María Soledad.
Now we shall hear from María Soledad Rodrigo to welcome us with our special guests. Thank you, Aldo. Welcome everyone who is participating in this special event. Welcome Laura Lisette Enríquez, Aristides Rodríguez, Rodrigo de Jero García, Commissioner Citizen of Info, Marina Alicia Samartija Botonzo, and all the commissioners from the Commissioners of Transparency, Public Information Access, Personal Data Protection, and Accountant Relation. Welcome everyone. May you all be welcome to the Protocol of Openness and Transparency, Prevention, Reaction, and Recuperation upon Risk, promoted by the Open State Government Department of Info Mexico City. Now we shall explain the dynamics of all the events. Please, Soledad. The Protocol of Openness and Transparency is conformed by 3 tables: by prevention, reaction, and recuperation upon risks. The first panel, which is the co-creation, and the second one, that is the roads of multi-level and creation. To initially begin and formally in this event, we shall hear from María del Carmen Nava Molina. Now we shall hear and see a video.
Apertura.
Openness.
Innovación.
Innovation.
E inteligencia pública
Public intelligence
fueron los ingredientes
were the
para elaborar un
ingredients to make
instrumento de gobernanza que garantice
to make
el
a
derecho a
government
saber ante
instrument that
riesgos.
guarantees the right to know what to do upon risks.
La colaboración,
The
el multiactor y
collaboration of the
multinivel
multi-actor and
fue clave para
multi-level
identificar
was
los
key to
elementos
identify the
mínimos que
minimum
permitirán
elements
dar
that will
respuestas
let us
integrales
find
para antes,
integral
durante y
answers
después
for
de un
before,
riesgo.
during, and after a
Respuestas
risk.
con capacidad de ser
Answers with the
replicables desde lo
capacity
local
to
y
be
que contribuyan
answered
a la
locally
construcción
and can be
de sociedades
contributors
resilientes.
to resilient societies.
Así, las personas,
Like that,
comunidades,
people,
instituciones
community,
públicas y privadas,
public
los
and
órganos
private
garantes del derecho a saber,
institutions,
tendrán las herramientas para responder a
organs
estas situaciones con un enfoque de
faculty
colaboración, inclusión
with the right to
y
know,
con perspectiva de género.
collaboration, inclusion, and perspective of gender.
Fueron 10
There were
meses de
10
trabajo
months
colaborativo
of
virtual,
very hard
donde
work,
diversos actores se sumaron
where
desde
several
Chiapas, la Ciudad de
actors from
México,
Mexico City,
Sonora,
Chiapas, Sonora, Sinaloa,
Quintana
Quintana
Roo,
Roo,
Tabasco y Argentina.
Tabasco, Argentina.
A lo largo de 9 mesas de co-creación y una sesión
9
plenaria,
co-creation
61
tables
personas
and one
representantes de diversos ámbitos y
session,
expertise aportaron
and
ideas y
61
conocimientos
people
para
and
co-crear
knowledge.
Protocolo Protocolo de apertura y transparencia ante el riesgo.
Protocol of
Prevención,
openness and transparency
reacción
upon
y
risk.
recuperación.
Prevention, reaction, and
Actívese desde ya.
recuperation. Get online now. Activate now. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you in the presentation of this protocol of openness and transparency upon risk. Before anything else, I would like to say hello to everyone who contributes to inaugurate this great event. Definitely the co-creation and the work through networking and collaboration is indispensable to get the results we are looking for. This protocol has the objective to be able to count with transparency and openness elements in the different moments of a situation of risk, like prevention, reaction, and recuperation. Definitely, it's a model of government that's focused in the principles of open innovation. In this sense, I also want to thank everyone who has collaborated with the enrichment of this protocol. It's been a collective learning throughout these last months. And I remember how it was managed, how we hoped to have this protocol in 2019. Thinking of how, upon emergencies, we can have, and actually we have, as we've proven through this pandemic, different areas of opportunity for information to make decisions in the private, personal, and the public ambit, of course. In that sense, I'd like to thank once again how public institutions in Mexico City and other states, speaking nationally, definitely without this network between the different levels regarding multi-acting, private initiative, federally speaking or locally speaking, it's indispensable to be able to give bigger steps and most certain ones. I'd like to point out how HIS and Senapred are a part of this, with whom we've been promoting the necessity of this protocol, and above all, with who we will make the replicability of the same one, especially in civil protection, through Senapred. So now, please welcome everyone, and especially my colleagues of the Info CDMX, how they are always doing their best to make these events in Mexico City. Thank you so much. And now we will hear the President of the INAI, the National President of Transparency, Blanca Lili Balam. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'd like to say thank you for this invitation of Mari Carmen Nava to this protocol. It is an honor. Thank you so much, Julio Cesar Borrinilla, President of the Info CDMX, Marina San Martin, and everyone else who is here with us. And before I give a very brief message, I would like to say, since we're going to have I will have to leave since I have another event I must be a part of and I won't be able to be here with you. Now it is very relevant. This event is so relevant because it's so innovative regarding institutions and the access to information, so we can have tools to fight against all the obstacles that we find in corruption, human rights, and how we must respond among these circumstances. These efforts are important for the capital of our country that has been exposed to so many problems like floods in the 50s, earthquakes in 85 and 2017, or the pandemic that we are still living. These and other similar actions and situations show how we don't have the right policies, the right openness of institutions and channels to keep an open and permanent communication that can create a management of these problems so they can become worse. But the proactive transparency and opportune information has proven that they're strategical pillars that can make the citizens be safer, calmer, more secure, and it can prevent future risks and generate a plan of recuperation where everyone can participate and collaborate. In that context, the presentation of this protocol is relevant for at least a couple of reasons. In first place, because the elaboration shows the reference of how we can detect and prevent certain defiances that can show up, and we can collectively all fight against them. It goes significantly deeper than transparency. It shows a new paradigm upon the decisions the authorities take and make upon a risk situation. We should also take advantage of the collective intelligence of specialists in the private and public section. It shows a great virtue. It's the product of an exercise of participation and collaboration and co-creation, as Mari Carmen Nava pointed out, how there are different actors playing a key part in this. And it managed more than 60 agreements. It also generated the lines of openness and how this can transcend is very important, since several initiatives can be creative that can provide the citizens with the information to be safer. I would just like to acknowledge how everyone has assumed this great effort, and particularly the team of Open State of Info CDMX, to make this reference material. Thank you so much and congratulations. Thank you, Commissioner Blanca Lilia Ibarra Cadena. Now we shall present Miriam Ursúa Venegas, Risk and Civil Protection Management Secretary of Mexico City.
Buenos días a todos y a todas.
Good morning, everyone.
Agradecemos
Thank you so
profundamente
much,
al Info CDMX por la amable invitación que nos han hecho para participar en esta mesa para socializar el protocolo de apertura y transparencia para la prevención, reacción y recuperación ante el riesgo. En especial a la comisionada María del Carmen Nava Polina. Yo quisiera partir respondiendo a una pregunta. ¿Por qué son importantes este tipo de ejercicios de co-creación para la apertura de información? Desde nuestra perspectiva, de la gestión integral de riesgo, por varios aspectos.
It's very important
for these aspects. Ayuda a visibilizar la importancia de la gestión integral de riesgo.
How important these risks are visible. It's one of the biggest challenges in the last days to recuperate in the political agenda the management of risk and civil protection that leads to prevention and not only reaction upon the security and well-being of people. It requires all the possible attention and the efforts of the involved actors. The second point is the openness of the government.
En acciones preventivas. Si bien es cierto
preventive
que este
actions,
protocolo de apertura gubernamental
This
se está
protocol
desarrollando
is
en el
being
contexto
developed in a
de la emergencia
context
sanitaria por
of
COVID-19,
sanitary emergency from
también lo es
COVID-19,
que esta situación
but it's
es
also
solo
a
un
situation
ejemplo de los
where
múltiples
this is
fenómenos
just an
naturales
example of
y
the
antrópicos
different
a los que nuestra
kind of
ciudad se
risks
encuentra
nature
expuesta
and life can
de
present
forma
to us,
constante.
and they are
Por
constantly being
ello, el
presented.
contar con información
That's why
sobre el qué
to
hacer
have this information
antes,
of what to
durante
do
y después
before,
del impacto de
during,
estos
and
fenómenos
after of the
es
impact
un
of these
derecho
phenomenons
de las personas
is a
que
right
habitan
to
y
the people who
transitan el
live
territorio de la Ciudad de
in
México
this
y que puede ser replicado
Mexico City
en otras
territory
partes del
and
país
can
con
be
similares condiciones. Otro
replied
tema, escuchar otras voces.
in different
Para nosotros el
areas.
participar en estos
Listen to
ejercicios
different
de
voices.
co-creación
So
nos
these
da la
voices
oportunidad
can
de
be a part of the
conocer
exercise of
otras
co-creation,
tanto
so we
de
can learn
sociedad
different
civil,
perspectives
academia y sector empresarial.
from
En este caso
academic,
particular,
business,
alrededor del tema de
private,
apertura
and
de
public
información,
areas.
además de escucharlo,
Besides, we should
fortalece,
listen to
nutre y
how it
enriquece
nurtures,
nuestro quehacer
strengthens,
institucional.
and
No solo
enriches
desde lo jurídico
our
y lo
institutional
formal, sino desde lo
aspects
social y
in
desde
the
lo
formal,
humano, a la
social,
vez que nos permite darles a conocer nuestro
it
andamiaje
also
legal e institucional
lets us
para
teach
mostrar los alcances de nuestra actuación
our
y las
experience
distintas
as an
organizaciones que
institution
intervenimos en los procesos.
and how this
Otra
all
de
plays a
mayor
part in the
importancia es la
processes.
convergencia de la
Another
gestión
very
integral del
important
riesgo
area
y la
is the
transparencia.
conversion
Ambas
of the
son
management of risk and
transversales,
civil protection. Both are
participativas,
transversal,
multidisciplinarias y
multidisciplinary, and
que se tienen
multisectional,
cabida en el esquema de buen gobierno.
that play a part of the
Ambas
good
requieren
government.
de verdadero
Both
compromiso
require
de todos los
a
actores
full
de la
commitment of
sociedad
all the
para
actors
que
of
sus
society
acciones
so
logren
their
concretarse
actions
a partir de la
can
identificación de riesgos,
be realized
no solo
upon
desde las autoridades
the detection
y la
of risk,
academia, sino
not
que la
only
sociedad
from
tiene mucho que
academic
decir.
and
Las
authority,
comunidades son
but
las que
also the
conocen mejor los
communities
riesgos
have a
inmediatos
say,
y tienen
since they
una
know
mejor
the
capacidad
real
de
power of
respuesta
these
y
risks,
también de gestión
and they
de
have to
recursos.
be able to
También
create an
forman
answer.
parte del cambio de
They also play a
paradigma
part in the
hacia
change
un
of
gobierno
paradigma
que
upon
requiere
a
del apoyo de
government
todos
that
los sectores de la
requires
sociedad
the support
para
of
la
all the
obtención de mejores
governments and
resultados
different
en
aspects
la
of
la
society.
solución de los problemas de las sociedades contemporáneas. Todo ello
All
con
of this
transparencia
with
y con integridad.
transparency and
El nuevo
integrity.
paradigma
The
parte
new
desde lo
paradigma
local,
starts
con
from
lo
the
que
local area,
transparentar para
where
la
you have to make
sociedad
transparent the
las acciones
society,
preventivas y de reacción
the
es en sí mismo
reaction.
parte de la gestión integral del
It's
riesgo.
also a big
Prevención
part of the
significa
management of risk
difusión.
and civil
Y en
protection.
ese sentido, nuestra Secretaría trabaja arduamente
Our
para
secretary
acercar la información pertinente y
works to
adecuada
make this
a varios
information
sectores de la
to be
población y se
close
trabaja
to all
de
the
manera
actors
conjunta
of the
en la
people
creación de contenidos
and the
que permitan
population
llegar a más personas.
that
Por
can
ello,
make it
de manera
easier to
electrónica
make it to
permanente
different
tenemos disponible
and more
contenidos
people,
tales como guías
and we
respecto
have
al
this
plan
content
familiar
such as
para la
guides
prevención de
towards the
riesgos, saber qué
family
hacer
plan
en
toward
caso de
risk,
sismo,
what to
para
do
tener una vivienda
in case of an
segura,
earthquake,
qué hacer
to
ante un
have a
incendio y
safe
cómo
home,
prevenirlo,
what to do upon
qué hacer
fires and how to
ante los
prevent
peligros
them,
volcánicos
what to
y
do
de
against
prevención
volcanic
del riesgo.
dangers and the prevention
También
of risk.
tenemos una cantidad importante de
We also
videos
have
cuyo
an
objetivo
important
primordial
amount
fue
of
llegar al
videos
mayor número de personas y de
which
habitantes de la ciudad,
main objective was
utilizando
to
un
make
lenguaje
it so
claro y conciso en temas de prevención,
all the
entre los que
people in the
destacan,
area with
por ejemplo,
clear language.
instalaciones eléctricas
For example,
seguras,
electrical
medidas de prevención
plants
en
that are
caso de caída
safe,
de granizo, escuelas seguras,
prevention
cómo
in case
reducir
of
los
hail,
riesgos en el hogar,
how to
perspectiva de
handle
género
the
en la
risks in
gestión
a
integral
home,
de riesgo y acciones preventivas
and
para
actions that
disminuir
prevent
los
and
contagios con motivo de la emergencia
lessen
sanitaria por COVID-19, entre
the
muchos otros.
outbreak of COVID-19
Publicamos
among
spots
several
con
others.
temas de prevención en
We
la
also
época de
publish
lluvias,
spots
recomendaciones
with
ante
prevention
sismos, plan de
recommendations
reapertura, nueva
in the time
normalidad,
of floods,
test coronarios,
earthquakes,
infodemia y
pandemics,
COVID-19, por mencionar algunas.
among others.
Nuestras redes sociales
Our
sirven
social
como
media
plataforma
are a
para difundir
platform
nuestros materiales gráficos y audiovisuales, tales
to
como
publish
medidas de
graphic
higiene,
and audiovisual
Olin presenta qué es el
material that
COVID-19.
present what is
Tenemos
COVID-19.
diversos, boletines informativos
We have
con
several
recomendaciones
information
para evitar
bullets
contagios de COVID-19, alerta tempranas meteorológicas, pronóstico de tiempo,
to lessen the
calidad del
impact of
aire y
COVID-19,
estado del volcán
better the
Popocatépetl,
quality of
entre
air and the
Avanzamos
country.
en las mejoras al atlas de riesgo.
Our Atlas of Risk has been so much better. It's online and it's free.
Las
It
capas de
increase in 300% the information, the public information, and we made our website so much better. We created a section of help where the basic concepts are explained, such as tutorial videos. We are convinced that the management of risk is the same as teaching any other subject. It must be shared, it must be reasonable, and it must be applied. Knowledge also means including different experience that have certain answers that are more favorable to work through prevention, control, and reduction of the risk of disaster, and to analyze the risk of destructive situations. We must planify these preventive measures so we can make our answer capacity so much stronger in the case of an emergency, accompanied with all the different sectors of the population. We cannot think about the risk in civil protection management without openness and transparency of information. Congratulations for this exercise. Thank you so much, Secretary Miriam Ursúa Venegas, for the message in this inaugural event. Now we shall hear from Dr. Cecilia Izcapa Treviño.
En nombre de Enrique Guevara Ortiz, director general del Centro Nacional de Prevención a Desastres. Por favor, doctor Izcapa.
We shall hear from you, Dr. Iztapa. Good morning, everyone. Receive a congratulation from my boss, the engineer Enrique Guevara, who couldn't make it because of his agenda. He's asked me to sit in instead of him, mostly to say thank you that we were taking into account as Senapred, to be a part of this exercise of co-participation, and where there were several actors of the organizations of the social society, of the government, of the academy, to make this protocol of openness and transparency, prevention, reaction, and recuperation upon risk. We consider it's really an innovative proposal that is using all the mechanism to make this continuous, for the continuous operations, and make the information accessible for the population. In case the population is affected through the impact of a nature phenomenon, so now the situation is stressful enough, so people are already affected by this event. They may have certain losses, such as life of a family member or someone who is close. Their physical integrity could also be damaged, or part of their property. And this is a very sad situation. So in that conviction, to have this instrument that allows you to access to this information that of course has to be truthful, trustworthy, because in those situations we've seen how with social media, social communications, a lot of fake information shows up, and we must be careful with that information. It makes the situation very hard to control because we see there's information of years past or other events and nothing have to do with what we're living or attending to. So all of this generates distrust, lack of control, and this fake news only makes the population more afraid. So this protocol needs to have truthful information for the population and on time upon the different stages during of the emergency and also what happens later as in reconstruction and return to normality. Just like architect Medium pointed out, the different stages that make the management of risk. In the general management, we're looking for all the actors who are responsible for this. We can't find enough just as authorities to take care of everything that our country implies. It's all over our national territory in different 38 anthropological and natural phenomenons. Mexico, because its geographical area, is actually in risk of a lot of these phenomenons. And the populations show how they are affected through a different series of bad decisions, such as environmental deterioration, political choices, economical development. It leads us to create the conditions so a disaster may create. So we must take care of these situations in our country. And a lot of people are responsible, since a lot of different institutes as the attribution of the different laws of each one of public administration in the federal ambit. A lot of times you don't really know, but you don't notice. You are participating in this integral management of risk, and that's what we're looking for. For you to be conscious and to assume your responsibility as a society, government, and the academy to play as a team so it all can be developed and find the results and investigations that can be included into this knowledge and to be the confirmation of risk. It's all very fundamental for this integral management. We think it's very useful and very innovative regarding this exercise. In this case for Mexico City, since it's very important due to the great concentration of population and the characteristics a capital city has, and that this exercise can be taken and implemented to the rest of the country. So, we are very grateful to be a part of this great exercise of co-creation, and we are sure it's going to be well received. We hope it has all the success in the world. Thank you so much and congratulations. Thank you so much, Doctor. Now we shall hear from Lothar Haas. Thank you very much, Soledad. Thank you, InfoCDMX. Thank you, María del Carmen Nava Polina. I want to also add the congratulations for this protocol of openness and transparency. Thank you so much for the invitation and the companionship we've had through our activities regarding transparency and citizen participation. We've already mentioned with a lot more depth how I want to congratulate the process, the open participation, and how I've retaken several points of view. And this is a very important part in the area of co-creation, not only for this space. I think it's a very interesting method, such as this inclusion in strategies and protocols. I think the participation of the city has been very important, and I hope a continuous aspect regarding everything that's the prevention, reaction, and recuperation. All those protocols, in the end, I hope those protocols are very, very important. The important things have already been mentioned, I believe. Of course, it's a challenge. These ideas of transparency, participation, this is actually the last thing we have in this crisis. And I really hope we are never in the situation of using or proving the effectiveness of this protocol, because that would involve having a crisis. So we are now in the challenge of balancing this area. I would like to point out what was said before. I think all of this protocol is not only part of giving information regarding a crisis, but also the management of it. And I say this from experience, a very important one in Germany. Out of pure rumors, ill information that people can have, it can create fatal impacts among the population. That's why this protocol is so important to handle the information. I also think it's important, and I may sound obvious, but we need to have information that's also not only correct, but also friendly, so it's accessible and comprehensible to all the people. And I also point this out for GIZ. We have a very technical language, and maybe we understand it, but a lot of people won't. Finally, I would like to invite to see if this experience in Mexico City could be applied in other contexts in the city and in the country or the states, acknowledging the particularity of how this plays a part in social culture and economic culture. Here they have a very important role, and it must be taken advantage of. Finally, GIZ are sharing a program called Fotoski. It wants to strengthen and support the strategies of analysis of incidents among the people. We also analyze citizen participation, and we are very happy to be able to be here in this process. This project is also obligated to support the city, such as anti-corruption programs, access to justice, and citizen participation. The prevention of violence is also very important, and we are focused in this project. Our associates are La Mexit and the General Secretary of Management. And we have a lot of associates in the different states, the civil society in different towns, and we are very happy how we have the cooperation that's so interesting and so important with InfoCDMX and with all of my colleagues and allies that play a part here. And I hope we never have to use it, but if it does, I do hope it's up to the expectancies of everyone. Thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you so much, Lotarras, for your intervention. We'd like to inaugurate formally this event. Now we should hear from our Commissioner President, Julio César Bonilla, to hear his message and formally inaugurate this protocol of openness and transparency, prevention, reaction, and recuperation upon risk. Please, Commissioner Julio César Bonilla. Thank you so much, Aldo. Good morning, everyone. We are all in different areas of the planet. A big hug to everyone who is here with us, particularly in the capital of Mexico. Thank you so much, everyone who is here accompanying us in the presentation of the Protocol of Openness and Transparency upon Risk, Prevention, Reaction, and Recuperation that is just made in the International Day of Creativity. Thank you so much, Mari Carmen Nava, who coordinates the works inside this institute and handles the direction and management of Open State with Aldo Antonio, to coordinate this great project that we've already mentioned, now more than ever has an impact, nationally speaking, and even internationally. And this is proven by how and who everyone is here with us. I'd like to say hi to Rodrigo, Marin, Laura, all of my colleagues and members of this event. Our Executive Secretary, Janet Benini. I'm going to say hi to everyone quickly. Rodi Borman, Mark Reverdin, Ricardo Peña, Nayeli Luis, Ricardo Loncarabeo, Patricio Roñez, David Enrique Minchaca, Claudia Guzmán, and all the representatives of civil society. I'd also like to thank the President of Info CDMX, Blanca Lil Ibarra, also President of the National Transparency, also Enrique Guevara Ortiz, and Miriam Ursúa Venegas, Secretary of Management of Risk and Disaster in Mexico City. Lothar Ras in Mexico City, and all the people who are here with us, who have a very creative intelligence that create these spaces so it can all be taken advantage of and benefit of the planet. This is just an example of co-creation in government. The cooperation of work locally, regionally, nationally, internationally, naturally is the right way when it's all about fulfilling our only reason the state has, the prevail of human rights. It is a multilateral and global subject. The advance of human rights and people is a subject that involves everyone, everywhere. The principles of open innovation that created this protocol that's being presented today will allow us not only to react, but to foresee and recuperate when we see ourselves in a state of risk. The planning and monitoring is indispensable of the mitigation of negative impacts against people and their rights in any emergency situation. All of this is very relevant, but the protocol we are showing focuses on this objective that not only serves the political, private and public departments so the people can actually find the information they need. It's easy to read, it's useful in every single way. Without a doubt, this protocol upon risk is that in the logic of what I was saying before, in the sense of fighting in pro of human rights, it must be respected anywhere in the world. It's replicable and adaptive, just like Lothar said. And it's true. There's not only diversity in other towns. With them, we can consolidate this project. And I'd like to especially thank one more the efforts of my colleague Mari Carmen Nava and the Open State Government Management and the Info CDMX, Adal Antonio, and all of his team. This teamwork, international and growing teamwork that's so strong in benefit of people. This shows how Info CDMX has given from a critical point of view, but also constructive, of the reality of access to public information. So without further ado, being the 12 o'clock of April 27th of 2021, I'd like to inaugurate the great work of this protocol of openness, transparency upon risk, prevention, reaction, and recuperation that is made in the World Day of Innovation and Creative Ideas. Thank you to all our people. Big hug. Great success. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for your message. Now, please, everyone who's in the Zoom, turn on your camera so we can get a picture, an official picture of the event inauguration. Thank you so much. Now we are done with the first panel. This is the inaugural act of the Protocol of Openness, Transparency, Prevention, Reaction, and Recuperation upon Risk. Now we will start with the first panel of co-creation and replicability. I would like to mention the objective of this planet, formally show the protocol and generate an open dialogue that's constructive and critic of how to use and detect these problems, specifically in the creation of instruments such as protocol, and point out the benefits for the authorities The questions for this panel will be, what are the attributes and the characteristics for this protocol to be a relevant and useful instrument for people? And from your experience, what are these elements that a protocol can use in pro of the people? So now I would like to present the people that will be a part of this panel. With us, you shall hear from Janet Benini, subject matter expert, International Institute of Global Resilience. We will also hear from Marc Reverdon, Secretary General of Paris Peace Forum. Thank you so much for being here with us. Nacheli Ruiz, coordinator of the University Seminar of Social and Environmental Head of Institutional Development of the National Autonomous University of Mexico. We will also hear from Ricardo Peñarrera León, international consultant in subject of risk and disaster management. And also, we will hear from Rudy Bortman, Deputy Director, OGP Local. To formally begin with this panel, may the staff please show the video. An earthquake, an hurricane, or a pandemic are examples of situations of risk. To know how to act before, during, and after. Protocol of openness and transparency upon risk. A hurricane, an earthquake or pandemic are a situation of risk. So, with the protocol of openness and transparency upon risk, we can prevent, react, and recuperate. Please be reminded, everyone who is with us, this video is in Spanish and in English for those who are with us from other parts of the planet. Now we will hear from Janet Benini for 6 minutes.
Buenos días.
I'd like to thank the management of Open State. Thank you so much, Commissioner Mari Carmen Nava, and of course, all the network that are participating in this protocol. Thank you so much for This is an opportunity, unique opportunity for the Department of Social Environment of the UNAM that we have been investigating for a long time to be a part and participate and find answers for this such important aspect that is usually not so easy. Now we will talk about the co-creation subjects and replicability of this protocol. One of the things that are very important for us is that the disaster is never the same. And however, there is a very well-known cycle regarding disasters where we can see different moments, as we have already spoken here before, like prevention, reaction, and recuperation. But there are other moments that are important where we can visualize future risks and we can reduce the ones that already exist. One of the things that are fundamental for us in the study of these disasters is the necessity to see a disaster as a specific moment that has been going on for a long time. It isn't just the event we see in a moment, a specific and short one, but it's also a lot of processes that are so long that come before and we must attend to. And the answers are the base for these future disasters. And upon that aspect, what we can take upon and visualize in this protocol to reduce the risk that exists, the future risk, and to create capacities and information for the recuperation. It can create, actually, the recuperation and the avoidance of this disaster in future moments, that is actually what we're trying to find with this protocol, that the emergencies in the future don't become disasters. The existence of these events and the vulnerability doesn't lead us to the same mistakes we have made before. And that's why the fact that this protocol is an innovative one is to be celebrated, because we need to think in everything we have already done and hasn't worked, and that now we have the opportunity to change. And the public information is replicable, is the possibility to generate a future that's different for everyone who is exposed to certain threats. The replicability of this protocol is in the capacity that this great team to integrate the different phases of this management. And I gotta say, the team enthusiastically and clearly adopted this responsibility and adapted the different tools in a way that, even though it's called protocol, we're talking about not just unique recipes for everyone. We are talking about messages, tools, components that address specifically the different populations and different moments of management that help us face upon all these risks and disasters. As I said before, so we can close in this first intervention with some ideas of how important this protocol and its replicability and its singularity is relevant, is to repeat, there are no two same disasters, as the investigation has proven. In several contexts, world speaking, like South Africa, Argentina, Chile, any country you have, there are several sections that are in common, and we must take into account, and fortunately are in this protocol. The prevention, reaction, and recuperation needs to be placed upon the human right guarantee. In first instance, human rights must be placed. 2, this transparency has to be proven by those who play a part in this recuperation area. The disaster is a moment of crisis and it requires tools, specific ones. And we have, in the emergency, these tools of transparency to make the humanitarian recuperation easier. The reduction of risk is always placed upon the respect of the local identity. That's why there isn't only one solution, because each conditions are different. Every community has a different history. Every community has different necessities. And the great achievement of this protocol is the respect to these local conditions. Honor the memory of previous disasters and their victims in a way that the information can be taken to transcend the conditions that gave the origin to this disaster, and in a way to remember the damage and the suffering that came upon, and we can actually change our future. And 5, the strengthening of social media and government social participation and the damage that is generated in these situations are also important, but what makes the difference in the process of recuperation is to have with this social networking and social capital. And this protocol, the way it's created, also bets on the creation of social capital and for the communities to have the capacity to be the first line of attention of their own risk and recuperation. And in that sense, we are seeing an innovation exercise that I am very proud of and will be a referent for several countries in Latin America and how they work with this information, with the transparency and accounting rendition, to generate, in that sense, the reduction of disaster risk with a point of view of human rights. Thank you so much, Nacheli, for telling us about the importance of the replicability in this protocol. And now we will hear of Mark Riverdy.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. Hope you can hear me well. I suppose so. It's a great honor for me to be here with you. I'm calling from Paris, so I'm far from Mexico. But as a Secretary General of the Paris Peace Forum, I've been following a lot what Mexico and Mexican NGOs, organizations, authorities are doing in the field of transparency and openness. And this protocol that Maria del Carmen Navapolina has developed is, of course, a new example, a very stimulating and interesting example of the work that has been done till now in that field in Mexico. Since 2018, the Paris Peace Forum gathers a lot of actors. It's a truly multi-actor initiatives to deal with global challenges worldwide, be it climate change, biodiversity, the governance of the internet, or of course the governance of health, and how we deal with the pandemic. These are challenges that go beyond borders and that need to involve not only states, but also civil society actors, companies, think tanks, different organizations, and of course the civil society at large to tackle these challenges. And the issue of transparency and openness in the field of disasters and risks is, of course, a global challenge that needs solutions like the one developed by the protocol that, of course, need to be replicable worldwide. And that's what we do basically at the Paris Peace Forum. Since 2018, we had many projects from Mexico. Of course, dealing with crisis, especially I should mention two projects that were presented in 2019 to deal with the earthquake that happened in Mexico in 2017, the Mexico's school reconstruction map and the transparency in reconstruction by the Fideicomiso Fureza Mexico, which are two tools that were designed to improve transparency for public authorities, for companies, and for the public in the way the funds are used to rebuild the city and the country. So we've already received some projects, but what's interesting with the protocol is that it really puts together all the best practices and is a tool that is available for future actors dealing with that kind of crisis. But at the forum, we also welcome other models like the one which is presented today, especially one model in the field of justice, a project that called Data to Combat Torture, which showed that improving transparency and the access to statistics and data is an incredible way to push forward authorities and different actors to act more actively towards best practices. And that project from the World Justice Project really showed great progresses. So improving transparency is definitely a way to involve better civil society at large and build trust between civil society and the authorities. And we also had another project, the Municipal Security Commission, that presented the civic justice model. And the idea is roughly the same share the best practices to build models that can be replicable in other countries. Of course, both in France, we saw in the wake of the pandemic the need also to improve transparency, and authorities has been doing more and more efforts to be more transparent. We can see now in India that the need of transparency in the months, in the last months, would have definitely improved the response to the terrible situation that's now happening. So I believe to conclude that the protocol that was made is definitely a great step forward. But to make it really useful, it might be interesting to confront it to other models existing in Mexico, but also elsewhere, to improve it, to enrich it, and to make it available also worldwide. And I suppose it could be interesting to see the model at the Paris Peace Forum, the next edition in November. We have a call for project that will end 9 May. So please come to present your solution. And I also call to all other potential project leaders from Mexico to present their work at the forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marc Reverdan, General Secretary of Paris Peace Forum. Now we shall hear of Ricardo Peña Herrera León, International Consultant in subject of risk and disaster management. Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for this invitation. And thank you for being a part, for allowing me to be a part and to express my ideas regarding this work that's being used in Mexico City. The first thing I wanted to do was an analysis from the point of view of the information, of the right to know. This isn't just a right, this is the part of the management of crisis and risk. So we needed to understand that in a disaster, in an emergency, in a situation of crisis, the great problem is the collective stress that shows and is born among society, and that we right now are seeing in this pandemic. Everyone is stressed for the lack of information, the lack of transmission of that information. And it's key that to be able to deal with this collective stress in a situation of risk or disaster, we have to have the knowledge. We need to know. We need information. The other challenge is key because we are in a time where we are in a time of information and technology, but it turns out we are beaten by this misinformation, fake news. We are beaten, are congruent, truthful information. We are being beaten, and the population is not receiving this information, and that they can trust it is real information. And that's why all of this information is not being a process of participation. One of the points of success this protocol has is co-creation. It's not only been a very participative moment, it's also a protocol. It's an actual tool regarding the management of risks. But if you check the document, it's so much more than just a plain recipe. It's a very powerful tool that we have. So in that aspect, in that sense, we should analyze what we have been asked regarding the subject of attributes and characteristics of this tool, so it's relevant and useful. I will start by talking how this is a dynamic tool, because it doesn't only work in times of crisis. It is planned in order to see a way to plan ahead and prevent in the time of peace, just as much in a situation of disaster, and to end with a recuperation. And it has that process and all the different phases that have been implemented in this protocol. We hope that all of this information is in the access of the population in real time. So that's part of the secret. And with all these technologies, we can't just expect information that is closed for certain times when it should actually be there, a second away in our phone, in our computer, or anywhere. The multi-access is key, so this can be relevant and useful. An instrument has to be intuitive with an easy language so everyone can understand it and have access to it. Because we want in this protocol for the society to be included, the private sector, and they're usually kicked aside by the government in the time of attending to a natural disaster. So we take these decisions, and we set upon the social civil, the community, and the private industry, and all we ask for are donations. But in this protocol, all of them are included regarding the subject of information. And it's super important, and this protocol is important so it can be more than a protocol, it can be a tool, an exercise of co-creation, very innovative for the session. Honestly, I haven't seen a tool that's been done like this one, and we think, and I think it's going to be super important and good for us. It's relevant, it's key. When we manage subject just as risks and disasters, and the difference between information. We are used to having small pieces of information for the community, but really the community needs a lot more information, a lot more complete information that's useful. In that aspect, we can see, sadly, with the pandemic, especially South American countries, they were more related and following this subject. This information is key. So then, the information needs to be shown up completely. In the aspect of replicability, it has an open tool, and it's open to other situations, and I believe it's super good. And it's clear it has to be an interoperational tool, so we can find the open government in this aspect we are fighting for. Thank you so much, Ricardo. Now we will listen from Janet Benini, subject matter expert.
Hello again. We emergency managers are resourceful, and if we can't find one way, we'll find another. And I thank you for your patience today to allow me to communicate with you. I have 3 points to make today, and I think that those of you who have been involved in this project will not be surprised at those points. These are the 3 primary lessons we've learned in the United States from the COVID pandemic, and they also apply to other hazards in other places. The points are these. Number 1, start with what you know. Number 2, over-communicate. And number 3, innovate. Let me talk a little bit about each one. Start with what you know for emergency managers means start with the plan you have. Organizations that, when faced with the pandemic, decided, oh, this is something different than we've ever faced before, we need to start brand new, really suffered and really had a hard time getting going. So even if your current emergency plan isn't adequate, start there and modify as you go. This applies also to the people in your country and in your cities. To the extent that you can, make your response relevant to them in their daily lives. We found out, for example, that providing COVID vaccines in pharmacies where people are used to going for medicine has been much more successful than setting up a whole separate operation with a brand new protocol and special logistics. So start with what you know as far as your planning, and start with what your people know as far as how they react to things. Be sure to document your experience as you go, because whoever has your job after you is not going to have that pandemic experience that you've developed now. It won't be exactly the same next time, but please give them a head start over where you had to begin, and let them learn the lessons that you've learned the hard way. My second message, and I'm not the only one who has talked about this today, is over-communicate. As we know, it's not a matter of a lack of information, it's a matter of too much information. And much of that information is false. So build a reputation with your people that they can trust you, and talk to them using many different media. Of course, we have television and radio, we have the print media, we have social media, we have new apps. Organizations have developed special apps during the pandemic to help them communicate with people. And something that's been surprisingly successful in different environments has been graphic messages, posters, and signs. These have the advantage also of helping people who speak different languages. My third point is innovate. Now, this may seem to be the opposite of what I started with, start with what you know, but actually it's the logical extension. And organizations have innovated like crazy during the pandemic. It's really been wonderful to watch as creative people come up with new solutions to deal with problems. In the transportation sector, where I do most of my work, people have come up with new ways that their employees can serve. If they're not, for example, driving buses, they've conducted contact tracing for individuals that may have been exposed. They've even helped people file unemployment insurance claims and register for vaccinations. Transportation facilities like airports and bus terminals, subway stations have been used for COVID testing, have been used for vaccination sites. And this really helps to integrate the community when everybody is using all the resources available. Things have changed so fast in the last year that many people are really surprised how fast innovation has occurred. Your job as a leader and a manager is to encourage this. And another thing that's been very interesting is that many of the innovations have come from the staff. Bus drivers have had great ideas about how to control disease spread on buses. That's where they work. So leaders have listened to them and taken their advice. Priorities change during a disaster, and this is where your inclusiveness comes in. We now have an appreciation for essential service workers that we didn't necessarily have at the beginning of the pandemic. We always think, okay, police, fire, doctors, nurses, they're essential. But so essential are people who clean the floors in the hospital, people who take the bus to get to the grocery store. and we've reordered our priorities. Please learn this lesson. I'm encouraging people in the United States to do this too, and realize that different elements that we may not have thought of before of our society truly are essential. The pandemic has brought together labor and management in ways they've never been able to relate before, because suddenly everybody seems to be working towards the same goal. Encourage that to continue. I thank you. I will have more to say in a bit, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me then. But those are my 3 points that I'd like to make today.
Thank you very much, Janet, for your participation, for what you've just told us about. And now we will hear from Rudy Borman, Deputy Director, OGP Local. Thank you, Aldo. Good afternoon. Good morning to everyone. I'm here in Brussels, Belgium, almost 8 at night. Thank you so much for the invitation. Congratulations, Maria del Carmen, and all the team and the organizations that are involved in the production and co-creation of this protocol. Maria del Carmen has also been actively impulsing a lot of important conversations regarding the pillars of this co-creation: transparency, openness. So I didn't want to stop mentioning this. I believe this work celebrates a lot of aspects, and I don't want to repeat what everyone has already said. I'm not a specialist in risk management subjects, but I do believe what's interested and should be analyzed of this organization, Alliance for Open Government, that was created 10 years ago, which is trying to promote a standard of co-creation that puts in the center a unique methodology to co-create and design solutions to public policies, what can be found through transparency and the collective participation in all the cycle of co-creation of actors, of government and actors, particularly social societies. More than 80 countries in these 10 years have been responsible and have become a part and promoted this model of co-creation. Mexico is one of these countries, one of the founding countries, more than 10 years ago, and has played a very important part in this sense. More than 4,000 commitments of co-creation with a methodology in the center of these models of co-design and co-creation in the same aspect. More than 3,000 organizations have been a part of this and have found the moment and the possibilities to be a part of dialogues and co-creations and incidents of public policies that aren't symbolic, but actually really affecting the solution that can be taken to the people. So throughout the Open Government Alliance, the co-creation is a center value for us, a great and important tool that can develop public policies. And now we were speaking about the importance of this innovation and the risk. But I think what's most important is the concept of innovation. The concept we have to focus on is the concept of openness, and that the organizations that are contemporary need to analyze how open they are. What is their capacity to interact with external actors? What is your capacity to collaborate with actors that a lot of time in our own organization creates several jobs of information and decisions. What this protocol promotes is a look into the innovation, the public innovation, because it's never replicable. It needs to be open so other actors can be a part of it, build it, and make it even better. So this protocol is just a platform to start from. It's just an exercise that can become something incredible through other actors and what they mentioned before, of all those contexts, local contexts, they can give it different measurements, looks, angles, point of views, how they can adapt the situations change. And what's the capacity these have? It's actually very important. From there, I think the protocol is taking care of the importance of creation and takes into account the importance of replicability. And of course it's important, especially for the states that are being so observed by the citizens, the capacity to not reinvent things that already exist, but use a collective intelligence to find new solutions because they are there. But a lot of time the organizations are not designed, don't have the same language, don't have the right models to be able to build through this way. So the work we've done now celebrates the initiatives. 2 or 3 years ago, the Inter-American promoted the values that are involved in the creation of this important protocol in the public section, and to show the people how they can be able I've been so happy to be here, and of course we are going to make this known everywhere since it's so important. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rudy. Now we shall begin with the second round of interventions with a space of only 2 minutes to close with the stronger ideas by each member of this panel. Are you a public institution or private institution? An organ with the right to know. A guarant organ with the right to know. Are you a part of your community? Thank you very much. And now for the second round of interventions, we shall hear from Nacheli Ruiz. Thank you very much for the space. I only have one strong idea I'd like to share. This process, since it's a multi-actor one, it needs the commitment of several different actors, and that means that for the academic aspect, in the moment we articulate with this protocol and the actions that derive from it, we have the obligation to be transparent with all of the results of our investigations so the public institutions can have this material. And how everything can be articulated with risk management. Besides, with what the Academy produces, it's very important to point out, as I said before, it's a multi-actor process. And everyone is participating in the openness of information. And in that sense, for this protocol to be replicable and its implementation become a reality in different contexts, a fundamental aspect, and we need to work with these obligated subjects, and for them to know this protocol and to make the public service their own, and the amount of lives and future that's in their hands. That part is fundamental. The legitimacy and the implementation of this protocol has a lot to do with the information being on time, being correct, being presented in the necessary ways, so that different actors can use this tool. And of course, I'd like to thank the Open State team to make these fine points that we've been able to talk about. And not forget, the subject here is openness and accountant rendition. And I hope this is the first step of several in order to implement the way we are managing our risks. And this initiative is one of the most fundamental aspects. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Mari Carmen. This is a dream come true for someone who works in the area like me. Thank you, Nacheli, for your message. Now we will hear from Marc Reverdun, Secretary General of Paris Peace Forum.
Thank you very much. I would like to say a few things to conclude. First, that this remarkable tool must continue to be developed. It has to be under co-creation because many countries, starting also with France, from where I speak, need that kind of tools. But it needs also to confront other tools of the kind and be enriched. To do so, it will definitely need to be fully implemented. Now it has to be tested and reports should follow how it is implemented and where it works, where it doesn't work. And I suppose that after this work on the protocol, we'll be able to give it even more visibility worldwide. Of course, you're welcome to come to the Paris Peace Forum to show the solutions. We welcome 350 solutions, governance solutions at the forum since the beginning. With this kind of visibility, we'll be able, of course, to replicate it. Many countries, and not only in Europe, need that kind of tool. And so to conclude, I would simply say, come to the forum. We'll deal with many challenges that are tackled by the tool. The world needs it. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Marc.
Thank you so much, Marc. Now we shall hear from Ricardo Peña Herrera León. Thank you so much. I want to close with two subjects of the area of replicability. Usually, when one sees the protocol, obviously it's relevant. It has all the characteristics, but to be able to apply it in the real life, to go on to the next phase, especially in this Latin America area, such as South America, the point is to work with the open government. Our countries have a problem to open in the openness of government. We have a great problem. We are having this problem like the pandemic, there isn't an open government, especially in our neighbor countries, and that is a challenge for this protocol to be replicated, this system to be replicated, not only in other areas of Mexico, but in other countries. And it could be very interesting. And that is a subject, the open government. And once again, to open in these countries, the co-creation, we haven't managed to do it just yet. The participation steps, we need to co-create. We have to be more powerful and make these tools even better. Simply, they have to be appropriate for these actors and the different ones who are in the risk of management of risks. The communities, and one of the actors that we always need is the private section. Those are my two ideas I wanted to share. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for your closing message. And now we will hear for 2 minutes Janet Benini from the International Institute of Global Resilience. Please, Janet.
Thank you, Aldo, and it's good to see you again. I think that not only are you doing the right thing in Mexico with your emphasis on transparency and openness, but you're doing it at exactly the right time. And I'll tell you why. In Chinese, the symbol for crisis is a combination of the symbol for danger and the combination of the symbol for opportunity. And a crisis provides us with both danger and opportunity. You can minimize the danger by doing good risk management and developing plans and doing your preparedness activities. And you can also now, during this pandemic, optimize the opportunity. You can do this through good two-way communications, listening to your staff and your customers, and using the opportunity to innovate. I was a government emergency manager for many years, and we knew where our shortfalls were, but we had a hard time getting attention, getting funding, getting policy priorities when there wasn't a disaster. But once there was a disaster, the leaders turned to us and said, okay, what do you need? And we had things all ready to propose. You have this framework. You have the opportunity to move this forward now during the pandemic and following the pandemic and make Mexico truly a leader in the world for these issues. I'm going to be following you, and I know a lot of other people will too. So we look forward to seeing how you implement this, what you do with it, how you help your people. And it's probably one of the greatest things you can do in your career. Thank you for letting me be here with you again. And I look forward to seeing how this goes.
Muchas gracias, Janet, por su intervención.
Thank you so much, Janet, for your transmission. And now, we will hear from Rudy Boardman, Deputy Director of OGP Local. Thank you so much, Maria Soledad. I'd like to add a couple of things of what was being mentioned before, out of the necessity of openness, and for us to reflect on this subject that, of course, is super important, and how the information needs to be clear, available, and with access to the tools, the info, the protocols. But there's still a deficit, globally speaking, of confidence for the citizens towards their institutions. There's a very deep work we need to do, civically speaking, in all the aspects, and we want to create open societies, and a lot of people to be activated and involved in the daily doings, where we can find opportunities, such as co-creations of this, as this protocol had. But there is a deficit. This important, and we have to look into it. And the second point has to do with a message more for our area, our active region, Latin America. I think not too long ago, the Kasum Agreement was presented. This is an agreement for a model for management that shows the environment before the access of the information and the participation of the citizens. And that's one of the biggest challenges we will fight with towards our future. And Latin America has been very innovative and a role model, and I would like to point that out, because usually it sounds like the innovation is coming from elsewhere, but with this production, there is a clear production how Latin America is an amazing producer, especially when we include private and public departments, citizens, etc. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Rudy, por tu intervención y cierre. Y ahora, para cerrar este panel, pediría la proyección del último video y de igual forma cederle el uso de la voz a la comisionada María del Carmen Nava Polina. Por favor, corre video.
This tool helps to guarantee a minimum piece of information upon a risk. This instrument has a plural vision and a guide to start acting that can be, to start actions that can be replicated for other people to access. Thank you very much for everyone who participated in this panel. Nacheli, Janet, Mark, Ricardo, Rudy, thank you everyone for your time and valuable comments. I would like to emphasize some of the ideas that were made. In the case of Nacheli, she told us that there are no same disasters, but there are common procedures. In that case, the protocol of prevention seems like can be very opportune. Mark pressure us to implement this protocol and make it replicable. And of course, we will take your word so we can both work on this protocol in the Paris Peace Forum. And we need to try it. It's indispensable. Otherwise, we will not have the experience and the stories of those who were benefited by this project, just like Janet mentioned. And then Rudy's emphasis in the co-creation and the including the collective, and how we take different steps towards this agreement. And this is the heart of everything. And how we can impose the culture of aperture, but with the actions, with tables, dialogues, co-creation, and in that aspect, the relevation is not really a protocol, a recipe, but it's also a group of tools that are very valuable. In this protocol, we would like to do a little bit of memory. In 2019, we presented the first colloquium for reconstruction of an open reconstruction in Mexico City. And we were talking about with Guillermo Seguro and Héctor Rubio the possibility to have a transparency protocol for situations of risks. And then we were thinking, working, developing one with different entities, federal entities, states, and allies in different academies, so we could create a table where we could have a conversation about this. And the result is this protocol. But we are certain that we have started with the stage of replicability and retroalimentation or feedback. We want to start playing with this protocol through different toolboxes, different policies, and where will they be applied? What community will they be applied? What group? And in that sense, it's been very, very valuable for the private initiative. And in the community of anti-corruption, it has also been a part of this. They generated this protocol. We'd like to thank you with all your contributions in this panel, and we will move forward. Thank you so much for your great time and generosity. Thank you, Commissioner Mari Carmen Nava-Porrina. Now, please, everyone, open your camera so we can take the picture of the group.
Muchas gracias. Cedería el uso de la voz a Soledad Rodrigo para presentar el siguiente panel.
Gracias, Aldo. Bueno, vamos a dar inicio al panel 2, Camino para la apertura multiactor multinivel. El objetivo es generar un diálogo abierto, crítico y constructivo sobre la importancia del uso de la apertura institucional para mapear problemas, atender necesidades concretas y brindar soluciones útiles y colaborativas, tal como se realizó con el ejercicio de co-creación del protocolo de apertura y transparencia ante el riesgo. Además, se busca generar un espacio en el que se expongan las diversas formas en cómo se puede generar apertura institucional, con la finalidad de señalar cuáles son los elementos mínimos que deben considerar en este tipo de ejercicios y explorar nuevos formatos. Las preguntas guías son: desde su experiencia, ¿considera que existe una forma única de llevar a cabo ejercicios de apertura institucional o existen diversas formas? 2. ¿Cuáles son los elementos mínimos que deben contemplarse para que un ejercicio de co-creación sea considerado un verdadero proceso de apertura institucional? El panel tendrá duración de 1 hora y tendrá 2 rondas de intervenciones. La primera ronda con una intervención de 6 minutos por cada persona ponente y la segunda ronda para la intervención de cierre con idea fuerza por 2 minutos por cada persona ponente. Hoy nos acompañan en este panel Emma Cantera, Policy Analyst Occupant en Innovate Government Division de OCDE, Adrián Alcalá Méndez, comisionado del Instituto Nacional de Transparencia, Acceso a la Información y Protección de Datos Personales, Noel Alonso Murray, directora ejecutiva de Fundación Directorio Legislativo, Rafael Enrique Valenzuela Mendoza, integrante del Comité de Participación Ciudadana del Sistema Estatal Anticorrupción del Estado de Sonora, y Matilde Pérez, investigadora del Programa de Rendición de Cuentas y Combate a la Corrupción de Fundar Centro de Análisis e Investigación. Ahora cedo el uso de la voz a Emma Cantera hasta por 6 minutos. Adelante, Emma.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Muchísimas gracias por habernos invitado. Quisiera agradecer al Instituto de Transparencia, Acceso a la Información y Protección de Datos de Cuentas de la Ciudad de México, a la comisionada y a todo su equipo por habernos invitado. Es un honor para nosotros estar representando a la Unidad de Gobierno Abierto de la OCDE y que nos permitan seguir trabajando con ustedes. Quisiéramos antes que nada felicitarlos por la excelente iniciativa. El protocolo que se presenta hoy es una muy buena práctica que demuestra la importancia de la transparencia, sobre todo en tiempos de crisis. Creo que como ya se mencionó anteriormente y como lo mencionó, tal como lo mencionó Janet, una de las grandes enseñanzas que sin duda nos ha dejado la crisis actual es la
As
necesidad
Janet
de
mentioned,
proveer información
we need to
transparente, a
provide
tiempo,
transparent
actualizada y de
information on time,
fácil
and they
acceso
can be
para mantener
accessed
los niveles de confianza necesarios
to
de los
increase the
ciudadanos a
level
sus
of
gobiernos,
confidence to their
para que las medidas
citizens,
que esos deban tomar sean aceptadas, pero también para combatir la
but
desinformación,
also
como
so we
todos
can
hemos visto,
fight
es un gran
against
problema que se ha evidenciado en los últimos
corruption
tiempos.
that we have
Al
witnessed in these
principio de la
times.
pandemia, muchos países
Initially,
sufrieron, o muchos
several
territorios del mundo
countries
tuvieron que verse en la obligación de implementar
were
medidas
forced to
extraordinarias
implement
para
extraordinary
hacer frente,
measures,
a la pandemia, muchas veces restringiendo el
but a lot
alcance
of
de la
time
información, pero también hoy,
with
como lo vemos
restricted
con el protocolo,
information. But
la
with this
crisis se ha
protocol,
considerado como
this
una gran
crisis
oportunidad
has
para
been shown as a
llevar a
great
cabo,
opportunity
otro tipo de
to
actividades,
do
para
other
implementar
kinds
nuevos procedimientos dentro de las instituciones, pero también para
of
desarrollar
procedures in
instrumentos
these
como el que hoy
institutions, like the ones we saw
que
today.
se está presentando. Como lo hemos nosotros discutido y como ya
As
lo
we've
recalcaré
discussed
en la
previously,
OCDE, la
and
transparencia
we've
no es
mentioned the
solamente la publicación
OCDE,
de datos, sino también cómo se lleva a cabo el desarrollo de políticas públicas, la
how
toma de
public
decisiones y la creación de
policies
instrumentos
and
como el
decision
protocolo.
makings
En la OCDE nosotros
are
determinamos
influenced
tres
by these
niveles de
protocols.
participación
And we have
ciudadana,
three
que
levels
va desde
of
el
civil
nivel más bajo al
participation,
nivel más alto.
from the
El
lowest to
primero,
the
por
highest.
ejemplo, la
The first
información, la
one
provisión de información es una sola vía en la
is the
cual
provision of
el
information,
gobierno o la institución
where the
pública
government or a
da
public
información
institution
a los ciudadanos.
gives
Luego tú
information.
tienes la consulta y por último tienes la participación
And then you have the
activa, en la que tienes
consultancy
elementos
and the
como,
active participation.
los procesos de co-creación. Y en este
Like,
caso,
for
la
example, the
co-creación
co-creation
o codecisión
and
se caracteriza por
co-decision,
una participación equilibrada
a
del
balanced
progreso de la toma de decisiones,
participation
servicios o proyectos. En los países de la OCDE
of
se ha
decision
demostrado que
making.
la codecisión y la coproducción
And we
llevan a una
focus on
reducción de
co-production,
costos, a una mejor calidad
co-decision,
del servicio,
reducing
a la
costs,
satisfacción de los
better
ciudadanos,
quality of
aumentar
services.
el buy-in o la apropiación de los elementos o de los instrumentos o mismo de las políticas públicas
Public
que se
policies
co-crean.
that are
Una de las
co-created.
preguntas que
One of the
me preguntaba
questions
era
that
si
were mentioned before,
existe un solo modelo para todos y
is there
la
one
respuesta
model
no.
for
Todas las
everyone?
instituciones
No,
son
of course
diferentes,
not.
todos los
All
países
institutions are
son
different.
diferentes, mismo dentro de un país. El sector no es lo mismo, no es lo mismo
A
llevar
sector
cabo
isn't
instrumentos o
different
políticas de
to
co-creación
another
dentro
one,
del sector
especially when it comes to
educación
different
o
countries,
dentro del sector
such as
salud o dentro del
sections of
sector
like
cultura.
education,
Por eso
health,
uno
or
tiene que tener
culture.
en cuenta la cultura institucional.
The
Tiene que tener en
institutional
cuenta que se
culture.
enfrenta uno a
What are
diferentes
you
actores,
facing
a
yourself
diferentes
against?
niveles de
Different
poder
actors, different
de esos actores.
levels of
Los
power,
temas deben ser tratados diferentemente.
and the subjects need to
No
be
es lo mismo hablar
treated
con un grupo de
differently.
jóvenes que
It
hablar
isn't the same
con un
thing
grupo
to
de
talk
personas
with a
más
group
adultas,
of
no es lo mismo hablar
youthful people
con madres,
than of
cabezas
older
de hogar,
people
que hablar con,
or single mothers
personas que apenas están empezando en la universidad.
or people who are just starting the university. All of this we have to take into account. What other elements should we keep in mind to co-create in these to have successful co-creations? On one side, what are the objectives of this? What are the results we expect in the process we are doing? On the other hand, the geographical scale. We're talking about a regional, national, local. What are the parts that are involved in this process? Who are those parts that are interested to participate? Like people who have been affected by public policies, the social, the geographical, the gender aspects, the representative. Who represents all these groups? What mechanisms are being used? We can't use the same mechanisms for all the actors. In all the phases of co-creation, we have to determine specifically which the actors are and with time. There's a problem of lack of trust in these days and has been reducing hugely. But we have to talk about time. If we do it too quickly, the citizen won't be perceived well. Why are we doing this in the last minute? We need to have reasonable time. We need to have a plan for all the parts to be interested in the plan. Who are the responsible ones? Who are the leaders? Who are the ones who are going to be there supporting us? There can't be a boat without a captain. We need to have an institution that's our leader. What is the role of each one? What is expected from each one? And what are the different levels in the interested parts? What are their roles? Something we usually don't have take into account is the role of the necessary resources, the costs. Are they free? Do they cost? What do they cost? And we have to evaluate and monitor a dynamic process that needs to be done constantly so we know if our objectives are being we have to take into account co-creation processes. We're really happy to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emma, for your first participation in this panel. Now we will hear from Rafael Enrique Valenzuela Mendoza, Head of Anti-Corruption Department of Sonora. Please, Rafael. Thank you, Aldo, for the opportunity. I'd like to congratulate the Commissioner Nava Polina, the team Open State team, the Info CDMX, who are giving us the space to do these democratic exercises that pursue to take into practice and reality all we have studied ever since the academy, ever under the concept of open state and open society. I would like to talk about certain points regarding this exercise of co-creation from the point of view of those who participate. I would like to emphasize the experience that I got in this panel that Nava Molina organized, that added so many interested people in these subjects of open government, risky situations, and to access to the public information in times of pandemic. The first reflection I can share is basically, this is an exercise that has nothing to do with other exercise under the label of open government. And I am glad of the opportunity to connect different profiles, different men, different women, different people who are in and out of the public service. It allows me to point out the subject of open government was touched in a different way, was spoken about in a different way, like in my case. I can point out and suggest, with the risk of not everyone may agree with me, it appears it revolutionized the method of open government. In several niches, academics or interns that are talking about open government as a beginning of democracy, the participation, the collaboration as a principle of democracy. In this exercise, we can see that the open government is also methodology. It's also a way to work. It's also a way of understanding the public problems. That's why I insist I agree with the previous participant. You can't just replicate the product or the protocol to be there in the situations of risks. And this time, the access to public information, you don't just replicate it, you replicate the methodology. And this is an invitation so we can all reflect the methodology that's being used in the ambit of public policies. The one It really, really excites me right now. The public policies of anti-corruption, the results that have been shown, and reunite all the interested people in this protocol of openness and transparency. I believe it's an example that the open government is a reality, it's possible, and we can build an agenda, a shared agenda. It wasn't only possible because several people were connected that were interested in the open government or in the right of free information. How a way of thinking was structured around this activity. We had the opportunity to write the protocol, to rewrite it, to have an opinion on it, to criticize it, and to express our ideas, and always under a voting method, and also under a really interested dynamic that wasn't only restricted to the stages and to the moment we got together or online, and we can continue doing this with the different technological opportunities we have. We have to get out of the citizen participation to validate. We have to reflect how much we're part of something but we don't collaborate. We need to participate and collaborate, and that means co-create, to work in a team. And it also means to be able to give and write this project that became and was born with the participation of everyone. Take this methodology and apply them in state policies or an exercise of public policies. This is something so important that I learned from here. And also something important is the handling of the different visions and perspectives, a horizon where someone can collaborate and not remain with the frustration of what was out. That management, that understanding, we can only make it if we talk to each other, we show our postures, our ideas. It is so much more than I ever thought I could achieve in this exercise. One of the lessons I can share with you guys is that we can work in a network and systemically speaking, a team effort, a team vision, independently of the spaces we are using. It unites us in an interest. And take into practice the open government, go into an open society, open to criticism, to collaboration, and an open society to be a part of the subjects that we are all interested in. And with this, I close my first intervention, and I hope we're all agreeing on my opinion that comes as a participant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rafael, for your first intervention. And now we will hear from Noel Alonso.
Adelante, Noel. Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes a todos.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Para pensar un poco el rol de sociedad civil, ¿no? en estos espacios de
in these
co-creación
spaces to talk about the civil role in co-creation
como meta para llegar a,
as a
o como
objective
camino para llegar a
we want to
mayores grados de apertura institucional.
we want to get to.
Pensaba un poco las preguntas no disparadoras que nos habían enviado.
I thought about the different questions we've been hearing in this exchange of ideas. And truth is, there's a lot of written bibliography
digamos, sobre el paradigma de gobierno
about the
abierto, sobre
paradigm of open government,
los distintos procesos de
the different
co-creación, ¿no? Que
processes of
digamos, la palabra co-creación está
co-creation,
en el corazón de este
meaning the
paradigma.
core or the heart of this paradigm.
La verdad es que después, cuando uno, digamos,
When
se
one
involucra
is
directamente
involved
como
directly
institución o como
as an
persona
institution or a
en un
person
proceso,
in a process,
digamos, la bibliografía y
the
las experiencias de otros
bibliography and the
países, de otras
experiences of
ciudades,
other
digamos, de otras localidades,
countries
claro, uno por
and
supuesto
states,
las vuelca en esos procesos, pero después lo propio de cada uno de esos, digamos, de esas instancias de temática, de la
the
conversación que se
proper
da, el
thing of these
contexto, no es lo mismo tener un proceso de
instances
co-creación de
and the
manera
constants
presencial
of
que virtual,
co-creation.
pandemia, no
Is it in
pandemia,
is it in
Ciudad de
person? Is it
México, nivel
digital? Is it in
nacional,
Mexico
digo, hay
City? Is
tantas
it
variables
nationwide? It's so
que
variable
influyen sobre ese proceso mismo, ser
that
sociedad civil o ser gobierno, ser de sociedad civil pero ser de una organización,
are you
ser
from a civil
un líder
organization or
social,
a
o un
private one, a
periodista, o una
social
universidad,
leader,
digamos, todo eso
a
son
journalist, a
variables que
university?
van
All of those are variables
influyendo
that
digamos,
end
en
up
estos procesos,
playing a part in these
y más aún
processes,
cuando
influencing
pensamos
in
en
them.
niveles de gobiernos locales, como por
Especially when
ejemplo
you think
vemos
about
el
local
caso de la Ciudad de
governments,
México,
like in the case of
bueno, por
Mexico
supuesto
City.
que tampoco es lo mismo crear un proceso
Well,
de
it's not the
co-creación en
same
la
thing
Ciudad
to
de México
co-create in
que
Mexico City
en una ciudad de,
than to
no sé,
co-create in
500.000
another
habitantes,
city,
¿no?
another
Todo tiene
city
su
of only
escala y todo tiene
500,000 inhabitants.
su efecto en ese proceso
It
del
each has its
que
own
estamos hablando.
effect on what we are talking about.
Efectivamente, hay como paraguas y temas comunes y abordajes comunes, pero después
There are
lo
common
propio
subjects,
de cada uno de esos
but the proper
procesos es
thing
lo
of each
realmente
one
rico,
is what makes it so
a mi
amazing,
entender, digamos,
as far as I can understand,
digamos, de cada uno de los procesos, ¿no? De
of
lo que
each
uno
one of the
aprende,
processes
más allá
where one learns,
estando cara a cara con otro
being
actor,
face
con
to face with another
digamos, en otro
actor,
contexto,
in another
avanzando, no es
context,
lo mismo estar pensando un primer plan que un cuarto
thinking of
plan,
a first plan or a fourth plan.
no es lo mismo estar pensando un plan, no sé, de
It's not the
parlamento
same thing
abierto
of an
que
open parliament plan
digamos, desde el Poder Ejecutivo, digo, hay
or an
tantas
executive
variantes
one. There are so many variables
que hacen que cada uno de los
that make
procesos
that
sea
each one of the
único, en
processes
definitiva,
are
¿no?
unique and definitive.
Y eso es lo que quería como
And that's what I
traer un
wanted to
poco
talk
aquí.
about.
Hay mucha, digamos, cada uno de los actores que llegan a
Each one
una
of the
mesa,
actors
por
that
supuesto que vienen
are a
con
part of this
sus propios
table
aprendizajes y sus propias posturas
and their own
previas,
previous
pero en ese
postures,
proceso
but in
se dan
that
cosas que
process,
no se van a dar nunca en otro
there are things that are
espacio,
never going to happen in another
es lo
space.
que lo hace único a cada
It's
uno
what
de
makes it
ellos, y eso
unique,
creo
what
que es lo
makes each one
rico
unique.
de estos
And that's the
paradigmas de
amazing
trabajo,
thing
¿no?
of these
Donde,
word paradigms.
de cada proceso no solo son
In that
únicos todos los
case,
contextos y demás, sino que el resultado
it's
puede
not the
ser,
only context, but the
y
results
eso es lo
can
que
be.
creo que a todos los que nos involucramos en este tipo de iniciativa es lo que, digamos, lo que nos atrae y lo que
And all of the ones who are
mueve
part
y
of this, what calls
hace
us, what
comprometernos
attracts
cada vez
us
más
into this activity,
en este tipo de procesos.
in these kind of
Entonces
processes.
también
So,
otra, y es lo lindo, ¿no?
that's the nice thing.
Lo que creemos mucho, lo que, digamos,
What we
que
really
nos
think,
involucramos
what
en
we
estos
are
procesos,
actually involved in this process,
que tiene digamos, un valor diferencial.
that has a referential value.
Que se tienen que dar a la hora de generar procesos de este
They
tipo.
have to stay at the time to generate these
Lo
processes.
primero que a mí me vino a la mente es,
The first thing that came into my mind
por decirlo de alguna manera, como
is
un espíritu colaborativo, ¿no?
a collaborative
Todos
spirit.
los actores que estamos ahí, quizás ya venimos
Everyone who's there,
de rencillas previas,
we've all have come from previous
de posicionamientos
meetings,
quizás más duros, menos duros en relación a unos a otros.
from harder or more mature positions. But in that process,
que es único por las distintas
that's
variables
so
que
unique,
cada uno se da,
with the same variables,
como el espíritu de colaborar o el clima de cooperación tiene que
the
ser
spirit to
el que
collaborate.
prime. Por supuesto que no es todo color de rosa.
Of course, not everything is of the color pink. a lot of times certain plans and commitments and protocols don't come out the way you expected.
A medida que uno va avanzando, bueno, hay diferencias que se tienen que
There are
dividir, ¿no?
differences that have to be divided.
Y llegar a puntos de acuerdo entre las distintas partes,
And
¿no?
to make it
Entonces,
to agreement points.
el clima de colaboración que no puede haber diferencias. A eso es a lo que voy. Tiene que haber diferencias.
There have to be
No
differences,
seríamos,
otherwise
tampoco sería un proceso.
it wouldn't be a process.
Noel, perdimos la conexión.
¿Ah? ¿Sí?
Sí, te escuchemos de nuevo.
Perdón. ¿Sigo? ¿Hacen así con el dedo? ¿Sigo? Perfecto, listo. Entonces, bueno, no sé exactamente en qué momento, espero que no haya sido...
I don't know when you guys lost me. I'm not going to waste your time. What I was saying was that the collaboration climate doesn't mean that there aren't going to be differences. Actually, these have to exist. That's what makes it interesting. It happens in an inclusion space where you can relive these differences with the concessions, the protocols, the plans, the policies that have been decided and co-created.
Además de, digamos, como elemento básico, ¿no? Además como de este clima de colaboración o de cooperación,
besides the climate of this collaboration,
la diversidad de actores,
the diversity of actors makes this all so much more richer. And it's not going to be easy to come to these agreements, but it is the right path to create. However, why do we do it? Because we think that they are the hardest but the most effective ones. They can have a greater impact. They can be transcendent over the years. And now we shall hear from everyone else. Thank you so much for your time.
Muchas gracias, Noel, por tu intervención. Y ahora cedo el uso de la voz a Matilde Pérez de Fundar.
Now we will hear from Matilde Pérez from Fundar, founding. Please carry on, Matilde.
Buenas tardes, muchas gracias por la
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and sharing the space with the people who are before me. I believe this space is very relevant, and we need to talk about this co-creation and openness and transparency protocol, especially in the sanitary emergency. It's so much more relevant to talk about these subjects and to have spaces. The protocol that will be presented today, that is being presented today, however, from Fundar, we would like to mention how important the different actors are, such as Info CDMX, that have made this space for co-creation. We think it's a really important. They were complicated spaces. The protocol has a minimum use in the different institutions, and the actors had to considerate some situations of emergency, no matter which one it may be. The question is very important, and there are different ways of doing an openness exercise, supervised or unsupervised.
depende mucho de a quién se quiere llegar y qué
It has a
quiere
lot to
lograr.
do. Who are you
Sin
trying
embargo,
to
desde
get
Fundar
to?
también
What are you
consideramos
trying to
que
achieve?
también te referí en la primera mesa, existen
In the first table, there was a certain opinion how throughout these years,
diferentes
different
situaciones o cosas que se
situations
tendrían que considerar como
have been
pilares
considered,
fundamentales. Y en este caso,
such as
pues está
fundamental
el tema de la
keys.
participación ciudadana como un
There
elemento
is
importante
the
que se
citizen
tiene que dar.
participation.
Tiene que ver justo
It has a lot to do with how this relationship between citizens and institutions exists. Some only exist in paper. However, we believe there is still a big challenge to create an impact so these spaces can actually work. To be creating the right discussions, the challenge going to be here, how do we make these spaces and this citizen participation can have a real impact? And the other pillar is the one of transparency and accounting rendition. In situations of emergency and in general, it's really important. The importance of this information is central, and we have it for this emergency, sanitary emergency. And there were institutes, there were a smaller level, international level. They suspended the ability to have access to their information, and we are still limited in this subject. So that's why I consider this pillar is so important. And the other one has to do with the use of technology, as we mentioned before. Here we have the challenge of how we're going to use these technologies. And it's been used in the process of co-creation. How this technology focuses and visualizes to the people they are directed to. Not only have it from the virtual spaces, also how we innovate to get this information to the communities. And another element we consider has a lot to do is the political will and the political context. For example, freedom of speech, access to information. In Fundar we have the experience in this mark of open government from the Alliance of Open Government. We are coming to an agreement with co-creation. However, we think it's really important the subject of will, a very specific subject was the affidavit. However, we didn't have this opening, this political will to continue with this panel, because on one side, with this aspect of co-creation where a diagnosis was being made, they were going to have ideas that were going to be revised, and the government decides to disappear us. So on that stage, from Fundar, we think it's important to have these spaces, this exercise. The limiting process, however, there's a really important role played of the political context where this can be developed. Now here is the protocol. It has the minimum of the reactions in times of openness
Sin embargo,
transparency,
todavía queda
prevention,
aquí
creation, and recuperation.
el reto de cómo esto se
But we've
empieza a
still
colocar en
got the
este
challenge
contexto
of how it's
en
going to be
los últimos días
set.
hemos visto pues que se ha cerrado, digamos, este
We would
espacio
like
de
for it to be
diálogo con las
closed, this time
instituciones.
of dialogue with the
Y que
institutions.
hemos visto incluso
And we've even
sí,
seen
reacciones
if the
frente
reactions
a
towards
actores
this
de sociedad civil. Entonces, en ese
and
sentido,
towards these
pensamos que ahí
actors,
está el reto de
we think
cómo
that's where the challenge
en
is.
contextos políticos tan
How in
adversos se
political
pueden
context
colocar mecanismos de cooperación tan importantes como el que hoy,
certain
como el que hoy se
mechanisms
presenta.
of co-creation that are
Entonces,
so important
todavía
can be
hay
included.
camino por seguir para que en verdad este protocolo se
We
pueda
hope that this
implementar,
protocol can
pueda
be implemented
generar
to generate
lo que proponemos que se haga en este
what we
en ese
propose,
sentido, pues agradecer que nos
to
hayan
thank
convocado para
that you
este
have invited
ejercicio.
us in this
Bueno,
exercise.
felicitar a la comisionada
Thank you
Nava
so
por
much, Comisionada
el
Nava,
importante
for this such important event
documento que hoy están
and
presentando.
document that you are presenting today.
Muchas gracias, Matilde,
Thank you so much, Matilde,
investigadora del programa de
investigator,
reacción de combate a la corrupción de Fundar, por la intervención que has
for
tenido.
Fundar.
Y ahora cedería el uso de la voz a
Now
nuestra
we will
última
hear
panelista
from
en
our
esta
last
mesa,
panelist
a
in
la
this
doctora
table,
Ileana Hidalgo
Dr.
Rioja,
Ileana
secretaria de
Hidalgo
Acceso
y
del
Rioja,
INAI,
Secretary of
que
Access of the
justamente está en
INAI,
representación del
who is
comisionado
representing
Adrián Alcalá,
Commissioner
ya que
Adrián
se
Alcalá.
encuentra en su sesión de pleno en el instituto. Por favor, doctora Ileana, le cedemos el uso de la voz hasta por 6 minutos. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, muy buenas tardes a todas y todos.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in this such important event. I would like to share a presentation, if you could please help me. It's very brief.
Claro que sí. Ya estás habilitada, doctora Ileana.
Ah, perfecto. Muchas gracias. ¿Ya lo pueden ver ahí?
Sí, ya.
Perfecto. Bueno, pues...
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Pues esta mesa 2...
This second panel
el panel denominado Caminos para la apertura multiactor y multinivel. Les comento. De acuerdo con este tema, Caminos para la
in
apertura
this second panel,
y multinivel
roads to the openness, multi-factor and multi-level. It has been used since before. During the pandemic, it was impossible to reunite physically, so we could take care of the roots and the commitments of the AGA, Alliance for Open Government, and the strategy of local. So before we made a pre-elaborate guide, it's for the authorities, but also for the organizations and the institutes and local technicians, or basically anyone who wants to take advantage of virtual spaces oriented to the discussion of public problematics. This instrument wants to habilitate remote channels so everyone can define their specific actions and take This guide is integrated starting from the methodological steps in 2 dimensions. The first one, gather and process the information regarding public problems. Number 2, recall and build spaces, create and build confidential spaces for the development of practices and citizen participation. The information of the guide is to elaborate plans of actions at distance that want to recommend as a recommendation for the development of different processes. The guide to elaborate the institutional openness that are considered as a part of this guide. This guide will allow people that are known as agents of change to find the elements to make the mechanisms easier for institutional openness, such as the design of formats, determine priorities in politics, the pros and cons of certain technological platforms. Now we consider that these instruments will allow us to make everything in a more orderly way. And this was all learned through 2020. And this guide will emphasize on key elements to develop certain panels where people can participate in a distance, such as people, institutions, and everyone who is a key player in this subject. On another hand, and in relation with the protocol of openness and transparency made by InfoCDMX, it's a participative instrument with a multi-act and multi-collaborative, multi-level. The objective of this protocol is to empower the citizen in situations of risk. That has a minimum of information for those who make the decisions and those who are part of the citizens. This protocol has been created under three notions: the prevention of risk, it has catalogs, has relevant design of public policies, mapping of relevant actors. The second notion, the reactions upon risk. For this stage, civil attention of unities of transparencies on the streets or first-hand mechanisms where the citizens can talk about their necessities. And evaluation of how this was used and how this was taken. An accounting rendition. And to publish the information statistically with a perspective of a gender perspective. Now, these plans of institutional openness prove themselves as tools that are the resolution of public problematics. These institutions must always be on the side of promoting the use of this information that's clear and truthful and in real time, so then the analysis of the risk can be even better. Being aware of the publication of this information, from the INAI we have worked in certain projects that have let us advance towards a publication of information that's useful, has a greater value and is truthful, that leads you to take better decisions in the prevention of risks, where you know and analyze how your authorities are doing regarding the prevention and management of risks. That creates mechanisms for accounting rendition regarding how your authorities have been working for you in the risk management. These microsites that you can see on screen that are proactive transparency regarding relevant subjects and public knowledge, useful public knowledge. Significantly important right now in the times of pandemic COVID-19. This site includes the access to information, just like frequently asked questions, and open data for everyone can check out. Over 40,000 clicks requesting information have been done in these past months. This microsite, every 15 days, has new information. Another example is the proactive transparency. It has the relevant subjects such as press conferences of the federal government, and here everyone can learn literally absolutely everything the federal government has to say. It also tries to play a card and important role in the exercise of access to information and how everyone can have the information they need regarding the subject they are looking for. Over 385 conferences have been done in this site. And we've been collaborating with the Health Department and External Relations Department to create this platform. Now, what is the role in transparency and participation during emergencies? It favors the account rendition of the authorities and makes their behavior and their results visible to all the institutions, generating favorable conditions to confirm the capacity of control of society over acts of authority. Creating more levels of confidence among the citizens regarding what your government is doing, to show the behavior and illegal actions that this public service is doing. We can see the transparency and citizen participation makes the access to this bureaucratic work and services even easier. Like, for example, making the decisions among citizens and authorities even easier, or making the measurements of mitigation and strategies of sanitary prevention even stronger. This we learned during the pandemic, of course, and making the exercise of other laws and rights, such as the right to public health, even easier. And for me, this is all for now. We shall see each other soon. Thank you so much, Dr. Ileana. This was the last intervention, and now we shall go to the second stage of the panel, with only 2 minutes per panelist. We shall start with the video the State Department will present.
Apertura.
Openness.
Innovación.
Innovation.
e inteligencia pública
and public intelligence
fueron los ingredientes
were the
para elaborar un
ingredients to
instrumento de
elaborate an
gobernanza
instrument
que
of
garantice el
government
derecho a saber ante
that
riesgos.
guarantees the right to know about what to do when you're in risk. The collaboration of multi-actor and multi-level was key to identify these elements that will allow you to give the right answers for before, during, and after a risk. Answers with the capacity to be replicated locally and the construction of resilient societies.
Así, las
like
personas,
that, people,
comunidades, instituciones
communities,
públicas y privadas,
public
los
and
órganos
private
garantes del derecho a
institutions,
saber, tendrán las
the
herramientas
right to
para
know
responder a estas
guarantee
situaciones
organs,
con un enfoque de colaboración, inclusión
created
y
this
con
through a
perspectiva
focus
de
of
género.
collaboration, inclusion, and gender perspective.
Fueron 10 meses de
For
trabajo
10 months of hard work,
donde diversos actores se
several
sumaron desde
actors
Chiapas, la Ciudad de
came
México, Sonora,
to be a part of it from
Sinaloa,
Chiapas,
Quintana
Mexico
Roo,
City, Sonora,
Tabasco y
Sinaloa,
Argentina.
Quintana Roo, Tabasco, and Argentina.
A lo largo de 9 mesas de co-creación,
Throughout
una
9
sesión
co-creation
plenaria,
tables
61
and
personas representantes de diversos ámbitos y expertise
plenitude
aportaron
sessions,
ideas y
61
conocimientos
persons
para co-crear
and knowledge.
Protocolo de apertura y transparencia
Protocol
ante el
of
riesgo.
opening and transparency upon risk.
Reacción
Prevention,
y
reaction,
recuperación.
and recuperation.
Actívese desde ya.
Activate yourself since now. Thank you so much. Now we shall hear from Emma Cantera, of the OCDE. What I would like to talk about and participate here in this last panel, how Matilde mentioned, the creation of protocols is simply the first step. And there's a lot to do in the implementation and to evaluate and monitor the impact of this protocol and the objectives that have been touched. I believe I can give an idea in the monitoring of this protocol, how it's been used, what it's been used, who have used it, what have been the problems that this protocol has bumped against, the crisis in the procedures, in the dynamic procedures. Sometimes people can only change, and it's necessary for this protocol to adapt according to all those necessities and realities that one can face in reality. Let's say in 2 years we have a new crisis, a new defiance. It's not going to be the same as before. So that protocol was created so we can fight and against this. It's important for this protocol to be something real and be modulated according to the defiances that one presents itself to. Especially in aspects of public policies. It makes the monitoring being really complicated, and for the impact to be counted. So the protocol is a great idea, but it's only the first step to see how it's going to be used, what are the difficulties. It's essential so this can be actually used in the future. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emma, for your conclusions and ideas you've shared with us. Now we shall hear from Rafael Enrique Valenzuela Mendoza, member of the Citizen Participation Committee of the Anti-Corruption State System of the State of Sonora. Regarding the question that's reserved for this, the minimal elements to be considered of an open institution, I would like to mention 3. The necessary participation of the citizens, with one perspective of collaboration, that the decisions taken in the exercise, in the process and construction of protocol or any other document that's applied to this methodology needs to be needs to be a connection, and the connection of this product so it can be used and taken advantage of, so it can be socialized and improved through time. That's the minimum things I see for this exercise of open institution to work. It's fundamental, as I said before. You don't always arrive in the right. It's key, this possibility is key to have alternative in co-creation. That's why in situations where the politic is an obstacle for the actors or that excludes those people to be a part of the decision making, we need to think of open government, and it has to be used in an appropriate way, starting from the civil society and its leaders, so it can be these spaces can be transformed upon a politic that's closed to the civil actors. It can be used smartly, with intelligence, with an important use to not fall into frustrations, and with ideas to transform where and how you can do these things according to a protocol and a political action. And this is how I finish. Thank you so much, Aldo, for your time, and to everyone who is here. Thank you so much, Rafael, for your conclusion in this panel. Now we shall hear from Noel Alonso Murray, Executive Director of the Legislative Foundation and Directory. My last ideas are on the line of one of the last comments, and I want to make them stronger to not repeat them. Basically, of course, congratulate the existence of this protocol of this kind and how necessary they are for all these moments of crisis, but mainly for crisis where you don't have a lot of time. And so you have to adapt and improvise. This is a great tool. But what I wanted to also reinforce was the necessity for these protocols, for them not to be strict instruments that cannot, in a way, adapt themselves to a reality that's critical, and it's really hard to foresee. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So the necessity of this instance, of the evaluation, and to adjust depending on the certain instances that we have in protocol, in this type of protocols. The necessity for this to be used and to be able to be revised and to adapt, so for when the moment to be applied, it can be applied according to reality, and to give the right answer and generates an instance of exchange, of implementations that's effective for that reality. The necessary balance that has to be between protocol and predetermined realities, and how both need to coexist and adapt themselves and implement themselves correctly. Thank you so much, Noel. Now we shall hear from Matilde Perez so she can share her conclusions with us. The protocol somehow creates the previous steps regarding the openness after an emergency. It includes key actions from the different sections that we were a part of through this process are key to guarantee an open state with openness. In that sense, we should say, the protocol includes actions, and I say regarding what was said before, the evaluation of the protocol. This protocol has actions that not necessarily require waiting for next emergency. There are actions that are contemplated as prevention. So this is important in a way because it can evaluate and generate these actions and all the products that are being used here. The better things that we use in these situations and that generate conditions for the citizens can take their own decisions and even save lives. In that sense, there's still the challenge of how we're going to use this and how to make it accessible to the communities and the actors of vulnerable areas that have difficulty accessing social media or virtual tools. So this creates the precedent. It's an instrument that's so important that generates conditions in a situation of emergency can be fed from another area and another tool. Thank you so much, Matilde, for your ideas and all of that information you've shared. Now we shall hear, for of course 2 minutes, Dr. Ileana Hidalgo, so she can give us her closing ideas. From the vision of the INAI, the inclusive vision, since through the implementation of these tools and the resolutions of public programs and institutions information, we can go in pro of making the society stronger, capable of making better decisions and in situations of risk. That's why we need to make these visions and these decisions stronger. They can make us go into mechanisms of open institutions to prevent, react, and recuperate and manage public life. In this sense, protocols like opening and transparency, like the one we're talking about today, created by InfoCDMX, is a great and interesting tool with a very promising potential where transparency and citizen participation can focus on the managing of risks. And all I can say is in the name of Adriana Alcara, thank you so much, Maria del Carmen Nava Polina, and the InfoCDMX. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am at your service. Thank you so much, Ileana. And now we shall hear Citizen Commissioner Maria del Carmen Nava Polina. Thank you so much to everyone who has been a part of this panel. For me, everything you've contributed is a great contribution, such as comisionada. I would like to point out some of the key words that I wrote down here on my notebook about everything that was being said. I think it's very relevant to and always have present what getting to this time and to creating this event and this protocol implied. For me, the word revolution is fundamental. Flexibility, retrospective, implementation, learning, and of course, acknowledging and recognizing ourselves everything we have created, all the things we've done in this protocol. It has not been easy in terms of relevance, but not only in relevance, and put in everyone's expertise, all the plural, all the different kinds of voices, and the interdisciplinaries we have been presented with, all the different entities, all the different states, and of course the international aspect, and how in this pandemic we all have the common denominator of a sanitary emergency, and how we've been analyzing and how we've been working on these difficult times thanks to COVID-19. So of course, we will never lose sight of why we need this protocol. Exactly because we need the information. We need to start from now to prevent future situations of emergency. Why do we all need each other and we need an open state? Because it's indispensable. The executive powers, the legislative one, the judicial powers, the open society. This protocol really for me, and of course in this perspective, the great value is that it shows how this articulation, starting from an open state and society, and the challenges, of course, from there, as far and as soon as we started, since we have a protocol that's very complete and very extensive, but then how are we going to implement it? That is our challenge. And how are we going to make it accessible in different ways? Of course, through electronic measures, all this information, but how is it going to get to the vulnerable populations that a lot of times don't have access to virtual mechanisms? So we are committed in acknowledging what we have right now, knowing the challenge we have ahead. Part of it, it's part of what we are going to implement. This phase of implementation, it starts with the stage of how we are going to make this protocol possible with different instruments in different federative entities, different areas. We shall remember, I really like Noel, how she mentioned the co-creation of certain areas is easier, but not necessary in all of them. So we have to create protocols for national interactions, and in that sense, how complex the difference of realizing the different realities is a premise that has existed ever since its very origin, and how there are different actors in different organizations, private initiative, the academy, and the institutions, the public institutions that were here. So we'd like to infinitely thank, and for me it's a great, great honor, the presentations of this protocol had the model of OGB, how this open government is done from the alliance, and how it's made of, how the model of open institution from the Paris Peace Forum, the tool itself that has, the INAE has created from that ambit and from that narrative. OCDE has realized all of these exercises where, of course, we make emphasis in certain areas and how the evaluation and the monitoring is super important. And I believe the commitment we have, and this is how I finish and thank everyone who has been here and has been a part of these panels and the presentations of this protocol. The next thing we are going to do is just getting better as a society. And I want to be very emphatical regarding this because the different organs in Mexico have a certain autonomous and citizenship, and that is fundamental. We articulate ourselves as commissioners regarding the citizen ambit. So we want to create and make all of this possible in the private initiative in any aspect and be a part of this possibility and be able to learn feedback so we can always get better. And because this would not have been possible without the generation of certain kinds of work. And in that aspect, talk about, like it was mentioned in the previous panel, how it originated, but how there has been a follow-up and a sequence with the different people that have been not only a part of this protocol, but of course, of all the people who are behind my teamwork, my colleagues, the consultants, the directors of Open State. Thank you, everyone. These are very important co-creation exercises in all of these aspects, starting from graphic design, and of course, giving voice to those who have a voice in the civil society, anti-corruption, the states, and I will say no more. This is just the beginning of how we are going to implement it. So we will continue in communication, we will continue in our network, and thank you so much to everyone in their different aspects of the country and other countries, and thank you for your feedback and your support of this protocol so we can have a prevention with openness and transparency. Thank you so much, Commissioner María del Carmen Nava Polina, for the conclusion of this great invention. And being 14:26 minutes, we conclude with this presentation of the Protocol of Openness and Transparency, Prevention, Reaction, and Recuperation upon Risk. Thank you so much for everyone who was here with us, the different panels, the different members, everyone who was here with us through Zoom, in our social media, of InfoCDMX, of Open State. You can always relive this moment through our official streaming channels of the InfoCDMX, such as YouTube, where all our conferences are archived, and you can all go and check upon them for information and learning. You can also check the microsites of the protocol in the institutional site of InfoCDMX, so you can download all the documents that here we have shared. Now, please, everyone who is in Zoom with us, open your cameras so we can take a picture, the official picture of the official closure of this event.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much.
Al equipo de staff le pedimos por favor cerrar transmisión.
Muchas gracias a todas. Un abrazo. Gracias, equipo. Gracias.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on